The Divine Revolte arc is the culmination of many characters' arcs, facing challenges on their own, all the while showing how characters like a Methode and Genau give a fresh new outlook on how the themes of Frieren have affected characters outside of the main crew of Frieren, Fern, and Stark. So after a long line of wholesome side quests that introduce some potentially major lore into the Frieren story, like the Hero of the South, Schlatt, the 7 Demon Sages of Destruction, and Milliarde, the remnants of demons that were left behind after the Demon King's defeat, still terrorize parts of the world, like in the Northern Plateau. So after we got this, and this, it's time we face the reality of how dark this story can get. Spoiler warning, I will cover this arc from an up-to-date manga perspective, as I will make some light references to future arcs, as certain themes, foreshadowing, and various other subtle happenings in this arc become like Easter eggs for Frieren Manga readers. And it is sad right now because it's another day, week, month. Holy crap if it hits like 10 months again in the Frieren Manga hiatus. Yamada Kanehito and Abe Tsukasa are sick. I think I am too. But the show must go on as Kanehito once more updated the script for the Foundation Festival arc that gets delivered to the great Mage Serie, the Feet Goddess, as she opens the script and reads it for like the 1000th time in her over 1,000 years of living, in hopes that the goddess's grace would bless the audience with something big and fluffy, with feelings of fuzzy wuzzies. And she says, I live, and that is all that matters.
合格だ.
Before getting into chapters 71 through 76, which should begin in episode 34 overall in the anime, let's remind ourselves a bit about the Norm Company and how the Northern Plateau has treated Frieren, Fern, and Stark since they got here. Frieren already mentioned in chapter 70 that basically the Norm Company runs the Northern Plateau, including the commerce and safety of the region. The military arm of the Norm Company, the Chivalric Order of Norm, are the ones keeping the entire area safe, but they were becoming broke until the goddess's good grace brought Frieren to become a slave for 300 years until she pays back her debt. But fortunately for everyone, Frieren has money hacks, where she is such a magic degenerate that she doesn't ever have enough funds, but has found a whopping load of silver ore that can put the Norm Company and the entire Northern Plateau back on its feet, where they don't need to eat hard bread no more. So it might be harder for big bad monsters like this one in chapter 68 to give people hell, if they can help use the new funds to improve their military. However, demons have terrorized Genau's old home, where it has gotten so bad that the Northern Branch has requested the aid of the Continental Magic Association's strongest mages, the First Class Mage, specifically Genau and Big O Methode. The beginning of the Divine Revolte arc begins in chapter 71, Subjugation Requests. It is still 30 years after the death of Himmel the Hero, and very specifically where Genau's from is in the Rufen region of the Northern Plateau. Right away, the demon motif in the Divine Revolte arc about deceiving conniving bastards gets hawk-eyed into Demon Sparkles by Genau. We know that the bakers in this region are known for their hard bread, and the guy that's responsible for that is Genau's childhood friend that got yeeted with his dying last words on his back. It is a legacy of his friend's father that took over the business. That makes you think about something, right? That some legacies just don't make it. In the beginning moments, we can already see Genau's conflicting cold, apathetic nature to feeling lonely, caring for his hometown, and even carrying on the burden of, it should have been us. All the while, Methode's feminine nature of caring and easing Genau's mental state is a foreshadowing for why they became partners in the first place. All of a sudden, bird trap, one mage, no, make that two. Both Genau and Methode seem to be exceptional at mana detection, but more specifically, sensing Fern. And we all know damn well that it's pretty hard to sense Fern when she's hiding, as it seemed to be Frieren that was the one revealing herself. And so, we almost got mage on mage violence, as Frieren sensed Genau's extreme killing intent, mistaking him for a demon, with Methode and Genau giving each other that look of, oh, Genau's just being ruthless again. Frieren brings Fern in, and one thing we know that will come up in future arcs is the presence of a strong warrior that is extremely adept at hiding himself, as well as with Stark right here. Unlike that one time where the sword demon lady was trying to catch Frieren's party slipping by praying, this time it's safe. We find out that demons usually consume their human prey, and a bit of Stark lore gets revealed, as for some reason the corpses in his warrior village were left behind, just like the current situation. So multiple questions start to get asked. Was it because they are already full? Were the demons just yeeting for blood sport? Or was it something more sinister, like for demoralization? Oh look, a goddess of creation statue. Turns out that the demons that were left after the village's destruction were already slayed by Methode and Genau, with Frieren's party right behind them. The chivalric order of Norm that was stationed in this village was completely wiped out, including the captain, who Frieren mentions is stronger than Stark. This is where it gets interesting, because Methode starts to explain in her autopsy that everyone died by blades instantly. Genau points out that the demons earlier were too weak for the station's chivalric order of Norm, so that means the bigger fish is still likely alive. Here we have a handful of humanity's strongest mages and Stark, who is still alive. One little foreshadowing nugget is that this is one of Aizen's biggest lessons, as down the line we know he ends up fighting someone named Revolte, the bloody god of war, and the same being set up for Werlos' character in the Foundation Festival arc, that the strongest warriors end up getting yeeted for courage and honor, where the fearful that run away like Aizen and Stark end up being the strongest due to their just survivability. The chapter ends here, which leads us to chapter 72, the General. We get Demon General lore in Divine Revolte, some backstory of how Methode ended up working with Genau, with Stark chopping it up with him, like this. Methode breaks down perhaps how all the corpses got slashed up. It seemed very unrealistic, especially if it was a human, which means the conclusion is that this demon might wield more than one sword, like during the time that Flamme blasted those filthy, dirty, deceiving demons that helped massacre elves. Demons only hide their mana for small periods of time, and so Frieren deduces that the demons are outside of their mana detection range. Genau pointed out some places where the demons could be hiding, and so they will go there to check them out. But before they do, it's time for a meal. The bread of no moisture. So that's how crackers were invented. Only recently has the Norm Company stumbled upon this vast, rich silver ore, so it'll take some time for soft crackers to be made once again. Where's Genau? You know, bottling up his true human emotions inside while showing his cold-hearted outer exterior at the church by the dead bodies. Instead of Methode taking the crackers to Genau, Stark takes it to him instead, while Methode explains her breakdown of how this multi-slasher serial yeeter is actually a quadruple wielder. Stark reaches the church to deliver the hard bread as Genau puts up a barrier to seal it. And guess what? Hard crackers. Genau and Stark chop it up over a splendid northern plateau meal to explain that he put an even greater barrier up after the demons that attacked it destroyed it. Everyone deserves a proper burial, so this is to protect those that Genau likely all grew up with. Like most decent human beings, Stark offers to help bury them, but Genau points out that burials are a bit different in the northern plateau. Cemeteries don't really exist here, with the rare occasion you'll see it in well-fortified cities or fortified tombs of nobles. The rest of the people are buried at the southern end of the northern plateau, transported under the supervision of the chivalric order of Norm. Generally, burying corpses here is just difficult because the graves are actually made pretty poorly because of the heightened danger of stronger monsters that are attracted to the smell of rotting dead body. Genau, along with the Norm Company, pretty much prefers a type of cremation or burning the bodies as an alternative to being monster food. But the clergy is very much against it. Both sides make good points, but the reality of the people that get to be buried in their place of birth comes with just unavoidable obstacles. You know what else is unavoidable right now? It sounds like they're eating crackers, Fern. Both Methode and Frieren are surprised that they are having a meal together, especially given the circumstances. A small creature delivered a subjugation request for this village, on top of Frieren's sleepy back, with Frieren asking why two first-class mages would be in a place like this. Methode explains that Mistress Feet Goddess tasked Genau and herself to subjugate the demons in the northern plateau. Frieren is totally relieved that she didn't become a first-class mage because she'd be bossed around by you-know-who. But Methode clarifies that she's doing it as the living grimoire's apprentice. Fern said nah, because she's a good, can be bloodthirsty, angry, but good girl. Frieren can't imagine being bossed around by a person that walks around barefoot, patronizing her. But Methode adores cute small munchkin elves, including Frieren. This leads to the flashback and the backstory of how Genau and Methode became partners, as Methode mentions that she definitely doesn't want to end up like Genau. The great mage Serie, the feet goddess, brings the two to her quarters to team up to defeat the demons in the northern plateau due to Genau's partner dying in battle. We got one lovely older waifu versus man with an ass for a face. She sticks out her hand to make being amicable, but Genau is a hard ass. He tells her that the northern plateau is dangerous up north and to not get in the way. However, we have a feet goddess on our side, and you do what the feet tells you to do. And that's how this lovely contrast of a partnership between limiting your empathy and humanity, Genau, versus two big words of loving and caring, counteracting balance of Methode. She pulls up on Genau as if she hadn't had to hold two ankles before, with Genau asking if she believes he's a good person. Not quite understanding where he's getting at, Genau goes on to explain that his last partner was a happy-go-lucky guy that can be kind, friendly, and sincere to strangers. He even tried to be friends with him. The nerve. But look at him. He dead. Defending some random kid. Because of his partner's carelessness, the quadruple wielder done got away with it. Genau still wants to pretend like he's some straight up narcissist, saying he has forsaken many people already. But the goal of his work and disappointment of not beating the bad guy that would end up saving more lives. That says, to all of us, he has some good guy in there. Methode asks why she was partnered with Genau, but Genau replies that it was the living grimoire's decision. Like his last partner, it seemed like Methode is that balancing personality to Genau's cold exterior. As we will see in a future arc, this isn't the only time Serie purposefully matches a compatible partnership. This is where Genau explains those differences, like in the Serie, Frieren, and Flamme flashback of wartime mages versus time of peace mages. Northern Plateau missions, given the increased danger, are usually first-class mages that love the fight more than anything, and wonders why Ashi no Megami didn't partner himself up with Yubel instead. There's a lot of nasty things we could say about the guy, but he is very self-aware of how he comes off. It tells, hopefully, Zein's future waifu to not be like him. Now, back to the present. Before the squad of Frieren, Fern, Stark, Genau, Methode split up. It's time to trade information. The older lady with the big packages breaks it down. There were 4 main demons that attacked the village. That includes the demon general that fights like this, with 4 blades. What is a demon? Stark asks. a demon warrior that fights using martial arts with enhanced physical prowess, along with their enormous amounts of mana that could have spent centuries honing and mastering. These kinds of demon generals, like in the Demon King's army, were even stronger than Aizen. The idea that this demon can wield 4 swords is something that many are not prepared for, along with Stark and Frieren, who obviously never fought against one. So it makes sense that the chivalric order fell to someone so powerful, and also an entirely new kind of enemy that no one has ever faced. Remember that dead Captain Stark? That could be you. A little demon girl runs up to Revolte to tell him about some exquisite flavored mana. Specifically, they counted 4 mages, 1 warrior. But Revolte puts a stop to the youngster's enthusiasm of making a direct attack. He tells her that they will split up. But the child demon mentions that they seem to be very aware of the situation. That is why he set up this trap specifically for them by slaughtering all the villagers without consumption. Behind all of his annihilation in the northern plateau, humans split up to protect dead bodies, with Genau being the one to stay back to do the deed. We know the motif: demons and humans just don't understand each other and why they do something, but understand that is what they end up doing. Once again, Genau being the one to stay back is kind of poetic for his character. No matter how cold he wants to be, he clearly cares and shoulders the burden. And for this kid, apparently she has a side story in novel 2. English release date has yet to be announced. We are now at chapter 73, Encounter Battle. This is where all the fun begins. We got growing into a lady, older, bigger lady, an ancient munchkin elf. It's splitting up time, which is every weak link's worst nightmare. The rest will look for the demons as Genau stays behind and mentions that maybe they should go check the abandoned fortress first. After the chivalric order of Norm arrives to receive the bodies, he will catch up, but Stark out of nowhere says he will stay back in the village as well. Are you an idiot? You gonna leave your boo and Frieren behind? Remember the nullifying crystal situation if they didn't have a warrior around? Stark feels the camaraderie already with Genau, and he too needs a warrior just in case strong demons arrive. But Genau is well equipped to deal against foes in close combat without a warrior. Frieren and Fern is too, but they are experts at fleeing. Once again, Stark makes the differentiating factor that Genau can't just flee due to the stationary corpses, but in Genau's response, they're just corpses. Eventually, Genau gives in to Stark's insistence on staying, which leads to Frieren, Fern, and Methode going off to search for the demons, and Genau reminding everyone again that Stark is a good guy, like his last partner that got yeeted by having a good heart. Stark sees what we all see in Genau. He chooses the dark exterior, but underneath are some fuzzy wuzzies. Even Stark wouldn't be bold enough to care to protect the corpses alone. Genau continues to deny that there are fuzzy wuzzies underneath them, as he's done everything, like yeeted and forsaken people for the bigger goal of protecting the northern lands. At this point, he feels like death is his retribution. He's not sad, but feels hollow that his birth town has been massacred, and he only chooses to stay because that's just what he thinks he should do, as he's not even sure why he's doing this, even after he abandoned all of his emotions behind. Ominous. Frieren, Fern, and Methode continue walking through the woods. Frieren warns Fern of limiting the use of long-range detection, as it can actually trigger the attention of the enemy instead. Due to being far away from the fortress, they can actually just freely talk and communicate as they go because teamwork makes the dream work. Sure. Out of the blue, Methode gets the fuzzy wuzzies with their inner child of petting small cute creatures. She even got the pet, the feet goddess's head. Every so often, with Frieren agreeing that both wouldn't like to be patronized by a huge set of women. Frieren drops the "I'm the much older lady than you," with Fern exclaiming not to touch her master like that. But Methode knows how to turn on a lady with the grimoire. You know what this is? A terrible cook's best friend. A spell that prevents eggshells from falling in when cracking eggs. After claiming such an unbelievable prize, Methode is allowed to touch Frieren's head all she wants. To obtain further consent, she not only wants Frieren's head, she wants body heat to body heat swap between two bigs and two smalls, chest to chest. And just like that, Frieren allows her to have it all with a big ol' hug from our blonde waifu that needs her own ship. Fern does what Fern does to protect Frieren's innocence and grabs one end, and Methode cannot allow her full consent to be rescinded by another person, and they try to split her up. While the three were playing a game of what is truly consensual, the two demon mages arrive, floating in the air. Like the demons we know before, in a game of magical pride, they reveal themselves head on, knowing that Frieren, Fern, and Methode are strong mages. So now with everyone noticing each other, the games begin.
Nebelladora Focatro.
And just like that, everyone is stuck in a hazy mist of mana. Their goal is to impede their eyesight and mana detection, which is no good for mages that heavily rely on it. With this maneuver, Frieren and Fern are separated from Methode. Fern points out how strange it was to see two demons just floating in the air, and this is where we get more demon lore about how fairy tale like their magic is. It was only until 40 years ago that demons ruled the skies, even beyond just specializing or mastering a single spell. The demons, flying is like walking, and they don't even consider it as magic. Besides Qual and Demon Anya Forger, Frieren is impressed by these mages that fight with some experience, reminding her of the Demon King army. What's even more strange, it's Frieren's calmness and smile, as forget teamwork makes the dream work. Frieren is going to just let Fern fight as she watches on as Methode gets into her own battle. Like how Frieren just let Stark and Fern handle Lugner and Lini before. This time, she's just going to allow the first class mages to do their own thing, as their title suggests. This is the first time in a long while where Fern questions her own strength, which will further set up her next phase in character development. Belief in her own abilities. Frieren is fully confident that Fern should be able to handle the demon as is. Female demon arrives before Fern and Frieren, as Fern continues to defend against all the Zoltrax. I mean, he should be light work, Fern. From Dragon Stark to help Grafgranat to all of a sudden questioning her own strength. After seeing herself almost yeet clone Spiegel Frieren to this. In Fern's eyes, she couldn't sense the attack and was only able to react on reflex. She believes this demon mage outclasses her, but we are all Frieren. We've seen Fern perform much better. The anime does a better job to show during more of their travels how much she's been struggling more against strong monsters, with Stark protecting her on a couple of occasions. This chapter displayed the classic goofiness that plays into the comedic interaction between Frieren, Fern, and Methode. All the while Genau continues to pretend he has forsaken everyone for this grander goal to protect the northern lands, but his actions speak for him as to protecting the corpses of his birth town villagers. Now we are set up to see some action with Fern facing her own demon, Methode fighting against hers, while Genau and Stark will likely face someone soon as well. All the while Frieren is just enjoying hard bread from the sidelines. Chapter 74, Divine Revolte, probably has one of the hardest looking opening chapter artworks of the entire series. We have feminine energy, guy who pretends to disassociate from being human, scared shonen, surprisingly even scared-der shoujo, and the you can have my body if you give me Grimoire's elf. Genau and Stark continue chopping it up like broskies, with Stark bringing back something way better than hard bread, fish. Methode is just like Fern, telling each other's partners that late night snacking is bad for you. But Stark is a naughty boy and tells Genau not to tell Fern, because either don't want to be yelled at by a woman. Stark asks about the demon who attacked the village, since Genau was originally supposed to defeat Divine Revolte with his partner. He wielded 4 blades, which is a rarity. Stark drops a big word like ostentatious, with Genau saying that Revolte created his swords through magic. The weight of the swords can be changed at his will. They are extremely sharp, which he can make them light as a feather and heavier than your mother. It's called Divine Cleaving Swords, borrowing the name of the sword that smashed a mountain in mythical times. It's a paradoxical ability Divine Revolte has. Genau goes on to build upon this demon lore, where demon abilities are innate. Demons that forge weapons with their magic are serial yeeters and just yeet to test their abilities with the blades. Stark and Genau have finally sensed that something is coming and coming fast. The big bad general has finally shown up, noticing a warrior, a first-class mage. Although demons may not be able to understand humans on an emotional level, they too can observe. Genau reveals that this demon is Revolte, with Revolte starting to recollect how this first-class mage knows of him. Do not attack Revolte head-on, Genau says, because direct hits will turn you into mincemeat. Revolte keeps trying to ask who this first-class mage is, because we already know Genau isn't that kind of guy. He's all about business. And so Revolte goes on to attempt
To exterminate
these vermin before him. Stark is doing everything he can to avoid taking direct hits while protecting Genau, but Genau starts to unveil that he too can make weapons out of magic, and he is equipped for close combat. The Guard Knock, a spell to manipulate Niello wings. Niello meaning it's black metallic alloy that he used to turn into wings. As he blocks an attack, a fight for life or death ensues, and enemies always find it fascinating in the middle of a battle when something interesting happens. Revolte uses all of his swords, with Genau and Stark resisting from both sides. Genau's facial expression is unmoved as he takes cuts and analyzes how difficult this fight will be. He moves like a swordsman, along with superhuman speed and stamina. Stark too is struggling to keep up, and it's another war of attrition like most fights ends up being. Our Niello winged first-class mage is even considering regrouping and escaping, but realizes that Revolte is just way too fast. Stark takes a direct hit, with Genau suddenly realizing something, that Stark intentionally took that hit, which allowed the Niello wings to finally incur damage onto the Divine, giving praise to our tank of a warrior. Divine Revolte's tail now belongs on a grill, with Genau pinning him to the wall, where a different kind of Takno Jutsu occurs in the demon version. Revolte finally remembers who Genau is, and the fact that the same thing happened last time, where Genau and his last partner split off. Genau slayed demons while his partner protected the village, antagonizing him even further. He asks if he wants to hear his partner's last words. Once again, Revolte chooses his words wisely to get under a human skin, with Genau ready to end him. But Revolte reveals there is still a child alive. Revolte sends his blades towards the child, with Genau reaching back to save the little girl, but that ain't no ordinary girl. It's Epstein's
worst nightmare.
It's that demon child from before that has her own side story. While looking for Revolte's praise for tricking a Ningen, she's now just particles filtering away. Because of how fast everything happened, Revolte took advantage for that split second, because he knew humans would react to protect children, even before Genau could even think through the fact that no child could have survived this awful massacre. Revolte developed quite the understanding of how humans operate. Genau continues to show how resistant he is to his own humanity, that what he just did just paralleled what his partner just did in trying to save a random child that led to his demise, leading to a flashback between Genau and the great Mage Serie. at his partner's funeral. Serie highlights that maybe the boy was just too kind of a person. It's that empathy and kindheartedness that kills every mage while they're young, no matter the time period. Genau says that he died a hero, but Serie relays back that his words are empty, going even further to say that Genau is unpleasant and doesn't possess a grain of kindness. As we know, Serie prefers wartime type of mages anyways, and tells him to not change that about him. However, what we just witnessed was the opposite. No one that has a shred of kindness would do what Genau just did. As Revolte gets ready to finish him off, even saying that he does not find joy in killing, ending his misery now. But like how Stark has protected Fern from all these direct attacks, he now protects his new first-class mage bestie and Genau. This seems to be the first time that Revolte has encountered a warrior that was able to withstand a direct strike from him. Kanehito loves to parallel a lot of fights, as a similar scenario happened between Aizen and Revolte with fists. Genau highlights how fatal that move could have been to enter back into the fray, but Stark's never give up mentality from Aizen's last man standing training has him continuing to dance with death. He calls Stark an idiot, but if it is a deathbed you want, it would be all the more satisfying if they do end up surviving. With both Genau and Stark bloodied up, the battle is far from over. As we have all already noticed, Genau is actually a good guy underneath that cold hard exterior that duplicated the same action that his last partner that died did. This is actually a sneaky insight into Serie's character. Is she just saying this in the backstory to continue making Genau be cold? Or does she realize he still has humanity in there? Maybe that's why Methode became his partner, to contradict this exact scene. Either way, Serie being wrong here about people is something that the Foundation Festival arc will explore. This is by far one of the most exciting chapters since the First Class Mage exam arc, and Stark getting his first big highlighted battle that the anime actually explored a little bit more before hitting this arc. From Stark and Genau's continued character development, along with some of the best action in recent memory, it is now Chapter 75, Revolte, the spell to dispel fog. Takes us to Fern's struggle to know her own strength, as Methode shows how creative you can get with magic. We get a boom and some pew pews, and a face off between unsure and probably unsure too. Fern is deliberating over what to do, still thinking about Frieren. Abandoning of teamwork makes the dream work. In the midst of a life or death battle, all Frieren needs from this far away is a view with a bucket of hard crackers. The demon tells Fern it is pointless to conceal her mana in this fog. He goes on to explain that the fog reacts to any traces of mana and reacts to capture the target. No one can completely conceal their mana until, just like what we learned in the First Class Mage exam, pure strength can be nullified by bad matchups. And this demon that can sense her within the fog and can block her fast Zoltrax is a bad one for her. Now to Methode versus the girl demon. Methode senses Fern's struggle, noticing that the demon she is fighting fights unconventionally, as the demon that she fights uses Methode, whirlwind attack spell. The girl demon is annoyed that Methode's full attention isn't towards her, and so she shoots back with a spell of her own. Methode continues her analysis of all the battles, as her opponent fights very steadily. Overall, this girl demon fights with great fundamentals, as her offense doesn't allow her defense to slip, in which she can't find a true opening. Not fighting her head on is the best course of action, and trying to free Fern to fight alongside with her, with the fog allowing the demon to detect Fern's mana. It limits her best abilities of concealing herself and shooting fast pew pews, which makes the solution quite simple for what Methode needs to do next: clear the fog. There's no need to get consent in this situation. It's time to get rough. After a steady fight, Methode changes up her attack strategy to be on the aggressive, landing right behind her and blasting a big one. Methode's attack style reminding her of a certain clan that hunted demons in the northern plateau, a bunch of humans that dedicated their whole lives to yeeting demons. Not to get too sidetracked here, but there are some mysteries about some warring that happened in the north. As we know later in the Foundation Offensive arc, something about fighting in Lorbeer. So just as there are mysteries about the south, there are a bunch of mysteries about what happens in the north. And in the fact that the north, they're way closer to a bunch of demons. This is actually a piece of lore about Methode's clan that is not really utilized just yet. So it'll be interesting if like clans and different villages like that in the north are connected to each other somehow. Once again, there's nothing like the thrill of an exciting fight to the death for our entertainment, as pew pews proceeds from all angles like divine Revolte swords. However, something is off to the demon because demons know deception, as Methode's attacks lack that vicious, bloodthirsty, murderous intent. To Methode's slight surprise, unfortunately for the demon, she's too late, as Methode analyzed the fog to underscore the nature of magic, going beyond using it to yeet others, like preventing eggshells of getting into your omelet, and showing that her murderous masked demon yeeting clan can never do what she can do, and having as much fun as she can. As much as we all want to have fun with her, because we want to see beyond the fog. Revolte, the spell to dispel fog. Too far, closer, better. With that little magical maneuver, the fog dissipates. It seems like this entire time, the male demon and Fern just keeps pew-pewing each other as they both look away. But just as the male demon kept his eyes off of Fern for just a split second, it just goes into some inner dialogue. Yep, that's right, Fern's gone. No way. Yes way. As Methode continues trading shots with the female demon, a spell from out of nowhere comes flying in, and this is where the name Fern becomes a reality, as the female demon sees that there is a spell coming from very, very, very far away, way up there. Methode smiles on, just as she would have predicted, with Frieren being impressed with her student foster daughter that she could snipe from outside of mana detection. This is important battle experience against battle-tested demons that Fern will learn to get over that mental fear of facing a threatening enemy. This chapter shows all the qualities through Methode about why the magic of creativity is so powerful, useful, and fun. And we get some lore about a clan that Methode is from, that is from the north, being that it seems like Methode's personality is different from a mass yeeter like a Ubel. And this chapter is also the birth of the meaning of Fern. We're finally at the last chapter of the arc, chapter 76, settling. Just like Frieren settling in from afar to check on her student, while Stark and Genau almost died. Genau is out here flying around with his yellow black alloy wings and shoots a bunch of bird shots at Revolte. It's a 2v1 and both are struggling against a wounded Revolte. Genau couldn't land any attacks and Revolte changed his fighting style to be chaotic rather than a refined swordsman. His ability to fight while looking fatally wounded is something that humans just can't comprehend, but built into the predator nature of man-eating demons. With another flash, Genau defends with his wings and feels the tide turning into Revolte's favor. Then Stark comes in and breaks one of his swords and tells Genau how brittle they are getting from the immense wear and tear from their battle. The mana Revolte needs to maintain the strength of his sword is waning, as one by one Genau breaks another, which leads to a second being broken, leaving two more to go. Stark takes the third with Genau, coming in to deliver the finishing blow. But both get fisted by impalement with a smirk of deception, all by the fists of divine revoltes, getting rammed by another man's fist, let alone a demon's. Doesn't sound like a good time at all. Remember that Revolte swords were forged with his magic, which means his body is just as dangerous as his fists, in which humans typically get caught by surprise. So Divine Revolte wins, is what he thinks. But misconceptions happens the other way around as well. Humans don't just die when they get fisted, some actually like it. And so Stark swipes away the impalement to deliver a lightning strike from bottom up, while Genau delivers the official finishing blow
What D guard not?
And just like that, the sun rises and a man's cold eyes wakes up to two round objects in the sun. Methode begins healing the man while saying he failed to die again, with Methode agreeing. Genau is able to be mobile again and asks about Stark. He was in critical condition, but that boy is very hard to yeet off since he survived an Eisen boot to the head. Methode prioritized healing him over Genau and asked if that bothered him, but it did not because they are fist brothers now. Even if Genau doesn't want to admit it, and even compliments the young warrior due to Stark's recovery and gathering themselves again. Frieren's party will take some time to recover in Genau's village, with the first classic Frieren montage of the entire arc that involves patting heads and sleeping on beds. Looks like Stark's recovery has gone by faster than expected, with Fern comparing him to a true monster. Methode notices that they lack a priest and would have tons of free time after their mission is over and could join them, in which we would all approve, and some other guy with a goatee as well. Like in this very situation, they could have lost Stark and Genau without Methode's healing abilities, but Frieren still denies the request as she says she can use some priest magic even though it's not advanced healing magic. All this time they have been running away when it gets rough. I mean, we have witnessed it over and over, especially when they got here in the northern plateau. You know what's better than a half of a priest, Frieren? Two big ones. But I guess that's okay. Frieren teases that the position of priest is still open for goatee priest to make his way back to the party, straight up hinting that they likely will see him again one day. Also, Fern is always on guard in protecting Frieren's purity, even if Frieren consents. She can't help but feel the fuzzy wuzzies in Fern's protection of her. Unfortunately, but fortunately, the chivalric Order of Norm has arrived to transport the corpses, meaning the arc is about to be over and we won't see Methode or Genau for a very long time. Both of them will help escort them to the south where the public cemetery is. This is where a short and sweet arc part ways. The homie that wants to pretend like he isn't a homie asks about Stark's wounds. Stark is okay. He is used to strong fists. Genau attempts to leave that he feels in debt to everyone and wants to find a way to pay them back. But Methode wouldn't let him leave without fully thanking them first, even if it sounds half-hearted.
Thank you. You were of great help.
And off the two first-class mages go, with the chivalric Order of Norm, with Frieren and Methode also teasing that they would see each other again, which has not happened yet as of chapter 147. Stark asks the real questions around here. Is it the right thing to do to not allow Methode to join? Frieren thinks of the priestess spot as Zion's, but Stark says she's a beautiful older lady. Game knows game. Zion would have loved it, since he's probably seen nothing but grunt hogs. Frieren is still on about being the older lady in the group, but look at her, it's just not the same. Look at Fern by the bedside of her boo. And so the arc ends with some wholesome. And that is where this video will end to. And I'll see you guys on the next video.